Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to Sunday Dharma. We'll start with a group chant of incense burning. Incense burning, all space is filled with the fragrance. All Buddhas smell it from afar. Auspicious clouds gather everywhere. With utmost sincerity, all Buddhas appear. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. They say they say that our mind is like a field, and everything we think, say, and do populates this field of the mind. And then it becomes like a reference library for understanding and making sense of every experience we have in this life. As Buddhists, where we work to build merit, good fortune, and we do that by populating the field of our mind with thoughts and actions that serve to free us from our attachments. They say the field of the mind is connected to the entire universe. So as Buddhists, our practice are designed to take us out of the illusion of a separate, small, egoic self and our attachment to that, and allow us to become a functional part of all of existence, which is our natural state, unified and connected, rather than separate. When our thought, speech, and actions, it turns out, align with Buddhist principles, we're aligned with the way life works best. Buddhist principles are designed to relieve our suffering in this life, but they're not passive. They require our effort to benefit us. So we have practices, the prayogas that we use to start our day, a series of daily reminders to help us start our day with the proper mental alignment and orientation. Using the analogy of the field of the mind, we start our day by watering and feeding the seeds of goodness in our minds so that they grow and spread to occupy more and more of the field, crowding out weeds of greed, hatred, and delusion, like some of us may do in a real garden to start each day. If we don't tend this field, then like a garden, we leave it open for whatever seeds happen to fall there and germinate, taking up more and more space until there's nothing but weeds. Worse, if we're not careful, we might actually plant some weeds ourselves. Everything we think, say, and do contributes to this field and guides our future thoughts, speech, and actions. This is the reason it's so appropriate to use the term cultivation when we refer to the process of applying Buddhist methods in our lives. If we correctly cultivate our mind using Buddhist principles, we'll be free and happy. Otherwise, we become bound and unhappy. Operating in this life and throughout this life can be hard. So I find myself constantly trying to manage, how do I take care of my needs? How do I take care of myself without hurting anyone else in the process? And the answer I've arrived at is simple. Be a Buddhist first. Follow Buddhist principles. And for us, that means we take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and develop bodhicitta. We're constantly introspecting, are my actions beneficial or not beneficial to myself, to anyone that I'm involved with? Helpful or harmful, useful, not useful? We can use techniques like treat everyone as my mother, practice loving kindness, compassion, self and others are equal, benefit others before self, like I want others to be happy before I am. If we think Buddhist first, then our priorities naturally fall in line with what is best, not only for ourselves, but for everyone involved. And we have to maintain the awareness that as Buddhists, we're trying to awaken. Do we believe it's possible to awaken? Awaken from what? We're trying to awaken from the delusion that's derived from our attachments to what's false and impermanent. Learn not to act solely out of greed, hatred, and delusion. The Buddhists tell us that the root of all suffering is attachment. Attachment to what? Things, interests, outcomes, our reputation, me, me, me. And this self-concern makes us small, disconnected, separate, and fearful. We have to get good at our tendency, at monitoring our tendency to attach, at monitoring how our attachment to our reputation and self-image, desire for enjoyment, avoidance of discomfort, fear, etc., are guiding our decision-making. It's literally how we make decisions. We think things over and we make decisions often based on these many myriad attachments. While it's while it's beneficial to have a good reputation in life, we have to guard against having our reputation be so important that we would destroy others to protect it. Doing so, as counterintuitive as it might seem, actually makes us smaller than the expansive kind of interconnected nature that we really are. In the beginning, if we have trouble seeing our attachment, meditation can let us see it more clearly. When the mind's quieter and there's less at stake, we can kind of see thoughts come up and we can see ourselves going to attach and follow that. It's a great way to begin to see our attachments. If we can't see them while we're sitting here and there's thoughts running through our minds and things to do and so much at stake, it's hard to see that we're attached when we're in that kind of a setting. But meditation can really help us get quiet enough to see the subtle nature of these attachments. And then when we walk around in the world, we can start to recognize them as well. So our attachments can be really powerful. They can be really strong and take over the day first thing in the morning when we wake up, grabbing our mind and sort of invading us, occupying us like an invasion force. It seems hard when these obsessions take root. It seems hard to avoid. It seems easier to just go with it until it lets you go. But when we allow ourselves to live this way, it seems the obsessions that occupy us become like an endless stream. We don't know any other way to be but to find something to attach to and follow it. And that's just how life becomes. And for my part, I've lived a great deal of my life that way. Not a natural way to live. So it can seem like the path of least resistance to follow these attachments in this way, grab us. So it's easier just to go. You know, when you have a bossy person in your life or something like that, it's easier just to follow them rather than confront and try to sort of, get to someplace else. Strangely, I've heard the Bodhisattva path referred to as the path of least resistance. A path where we're simply embracing reality itself. It's entirely natural. As counterintuitive as that might seem to us with our attached, deluded minds. It's the way the universe works. We're just learning to work in it. It's aligning with the natural order of things. To be any other way than what we're striving to become as we practice to be bodhisattvas is to operate outside the natural order, grasping for existence in all the wrong ways, with all the wrong people, in all the wrong places oftentimes. Buddhism is science of awakening. It's also the science of what causes suffering in this life and the solution for it. Most Buddhist practices and principles, it turns out, are designed to help us break our attachment to a false self that they tell us causes so much suffering. And I remember when I started with Heartwood years ago, several years ago, not too many years ago, several years ago, that all this talk of suffering in Dharma talks, because I would go to the Dharma talk and then I would leave, right? And so, once, I don't know if it was once a week at that time, maybe it was twice a week, we'd have Dharma talk and I would go and I would listen and I would leave. And we'll always talk about suffering. And I felt like, well, life was pretty good. I mean, made a good career, getting ready to retire soon, have a home, family. Life's pretty good. I don't think I suffer. I'm suffering. I'm suffering. But as I sort of, decided to kind of pick up a little of what was being put down in these Dharma talks, I realized, wait, I do suffer. That anxiety before a meeting at work, that's suffering. And it's not necessarily needed. We're told there's another way to be. Well, okay. So I do suffer. So that's where it started. Because Buddhism starts you with this idea that there's suffering. There's a solution to the suffering. There's a path out of it. And in a way to do it, but you have to come to terms with the idea that there is suffering, first with yourself, and then with somebody else, and then with others. And then that our suffering can actually cause other people to suffer because we're operating from a mind of delusion. We don't know what we're doing. We honestly just don't know what we're doing. We look pretty good. We try to anyways. Sometimes we fail and we hope nobody saw that. Like when you trip, walking down the sidewalk and you look behind you like,
Who did that?
exactly. Couldn't have been me. Not so old that I trip on the sidewalk for no reason. It had to be something. So, but when we attach, we're not free. We're not in the flow of life. It's like being caught in a rock, in a rowboat, We keep getting snagged. we're caught. We can't flow with the stream. And we can learn to feel this every moment of every day when we're thinking things over. Every decision we make, we can see. We can learn to see. We can't see it at first. I couldn't see it. We can learn to see our attachments playing into how we make decisions, how we think things over. What's at stake for me? What am I worried about? What's to be feared? We have to be careful. I've come to realize every one of these attachments is a delusion in development. Because it's driving our decision making. And when our decision making follows this, an attachment or attachments, we're creating a scenario that serves us, maybe, serves a need, serves an outcome that we want, but it's very narrowly focused and it misses a lot. So it's easy to make mistakes. It's easy to hurt people when you thought you were making a joke. All those kinds of things. How do we hurt someone when we're making a joke? Well, we wanted to be clever. That's the attachment we started out with. And then that led to the joke, and that led to delivering the joke, and that led to the person taking it the wrong way. Because why? We're only focused on this little thing. I want to get attention. We missed everything else that person has a mind. They might interpret your words in a certain way. So we're not connected. We're isolated when we're attached. So when we start to recognize that, when we see that, then we learn, well, just time to get back to Buddhist principles. When we begin, I know when I, begin in, any kind of spiritual endeavor, when we begin in Buddhism, like a coat. In our day-to-day living, there are times we need a coat and times we don't. So we might take it off when we don't need it. If we treat our Buddhist practice this way, put it on when we enter the Sangha or sit at the altar or sit to meditate, but take it off when we're roaming around in the world or hanging out with friends, we won't make progress. Because remember, we're seeding the field of the mind with every single thing we do. So the more we're away from our Buddhist principles, the more we're just going to create a whole bunch of stuff for us to recover from, is the way it turns out. So like taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back, or even worse than that, 1 step forward and 2 steps back. This is how it was when I was younger. I got exposed to meditation when I was 23. That's pretty young. I made so much progress so fast with meditation, and I really saw a benefit in my day-to-day life. But I would take it off and put it aside when, I was out with friends. I'm 23, right? So I'm out with friends. We go to nightclubs, a whole weekend, stay at somebody's apartment, going out. So I would take off my spiritual endeavor to, in those situations, just didn't seem to fit in those circumstances. There didn't seem any way to sort of be in those situations and be spiritual at the same time. And in those days, I thought progress in meditation was all there was to it. And if I could hang out and still meditate the next day, that was good. Everything was good. But eventually that switching took its toll. And eventually I walked away from the spiritual life for many years. Luckily, along the way, these many years later, I found Buddhism and Heartwood, and with it, the Dharma of cultivation. And the realization, good news, very good news, that spiritual practice wasn't just when I was meditating on a pillow, but all the time while I was walking around. I come to call it walking around Dharma. It's a great benefit because I don't have to keep running to the pillow to feel spiritual, like I'm doing my, spiritual work. I can do it while I'm walking around. So now I realize I don't have to switch back and forth. I can be a Buddhist all the time, no matter what I'm doing, whether I have time to meditate or not. So I developed a real aspiration to follow the path, trusting where it led. Came to know that it produced a sense of freedom and wonder. It was exciting to be a part of. First thing I noticed, I talked about this a lot, was, after kind of taking up the path in earnest, was that the whole experience of boredom dissolved. How could there ever have been any such thing as boredom? And I began to see it as the height of suffering. Boredom is the height of suffering. It's a mind that's not satisfied with what's happening right now. It's a mind that's lost its sense of wonder and curiosity. It's not in the flow. It's waiting for something that it doesn't have. It's attached. It was notable when I noticed, hey, I'm never bored anymore. That was a highlight. Because boredom drives us to do all kinds of things. People have boats, people have, 3 houses, all these. Boredom drives us to do a lot of things to fill that void. We end up filling it with attachments, more and more attachments. We get bored with the attachments, and then we need more attachments. I'm currently have been for, could be a year and a half. You could look at it as 2.5 years. You could look at it as 3.5 years, a substantial life transition. Some of it's done, some of it's ongoing, many milestones. But the ongoing effort has been, it is, and it has been, how to manage through these things with enough focus on my own wants and needs, right? Because I've got to take care of things without losing myself and my hard-fought clarity in the process. The answer, be a Buddhist first. Be a Buddhist first. For me, that's keeping a focus on my own cultivation, seeding the ground of my mind to produce a beautiful field, to take the analogy, right out into the field. It's a beautiful field where all the animals, bees and insects can flourish, like a paradise for all who dwell and visit there, including me. It's where we live, our mind is where we live. It's all we have. Whew, boy, have I treated it badly. So that means feed myself first with Buddhist practice, Dharma study, for as much as it's been difficult to feel like, I was entrenched in my Buddhist practice this last year or two. Still, the schedule of Dharma and being able to come out of kind of whatever was going on and sit for an hour and a half and listen to to be part of a discussion about the Dharma has been refuge. So even when I didn't feel so connected myself, I still came and made an effort to stay connected with you all. So that's the power of Sangha. There's the three things, right? The Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Sangha has just as much value as the other two. So feed myself first with my Buddhist practices as much as possible. In finance, they say, pay yourself first, right? To grow your wealth. Don't spend all your capital. Take a little bit when you get it, put it over here, pay yourself first. So that's like starting your day with your Buddhist practices. Pay yourself first. Keep an eye on cause and effect. Don't plant causes that'll bear useless or regretful fruit. Get what I need without taking what's not given. So for me, Buddhism is therapy. As long as I stay focused on my Buddhist principles, my Buddhist practices, again, as much as possible, and life comes in and, there's a variance. But I know the benefit now. And so there's a returning. There's always a returning. Without years passing. Because we can get covered up. We can get covered up real quick. Get reattached. The delusions delusions are like, I think of like fibers, fibers, the way you kind of see them make a matrix and they produce like a covering. We can quickly get covered up by delusions. So it's the purpose of daily practice. It's because we are covered up. We're coming to Buddhism covered up. And to get uncovered requires, and the habit is to be covered up. And the habit is to act within that. And so we're trying to overcome that habitual behavior by planting new habits. But it takes time for habits to take root. And of course, the world is loud as hell. I mean, it is loud, grabbing our attention, hard to work with. The things that need to be done in the world can be extremely detail-oriented and time-consuming and heavy with process. And we need experts and consultants. And you're very distracting, right? But Buddhism is therapy. As long as I stay focused on Buddhist principles, practice, stay connected with the Sangha, the Dharma, I know all will be well. I've tried the alternative and it doesn't work. That's all I have. I'll open it up now for anyone who'd like to comment from their own experience. Putting the Dharma first. Being a Dharma first practitioner, a Buddhist first practitioner. Feel free. Can we turn the camera around in case anyone wants to share?
After a while, it ceases to become practice. And it becomes what one is.
Yes. Yes. And that's the good news. That's the good news to me, is that so many of the things that the first time I ever gave a Dharma talk, the whole thing was basically just me kind of, pointing out the humor in all of the terminology and the lists and all these concepts that I was hearing, you know, in Dharma talks and things like that, and like so much, like constantly Googling emptiness. Like, you know, I just remember, you know, years just emptiness. Like, what are you talking about? But yeah, as I, you know, I remember deciding to take up, give this a try. You know, sounds good, can't hurt. Give it a try. That it was effort, it was work. I mean, I had to actually sort of, you know, apply myself to it and have, you know, something to go by. If I was going to take up a practice like the Dharma of cultivation, I had to literally read it while I was doing it. It was very cumbersome to get started. But after a while, with some effort, I was able to sort of, you know, do it without the text, and then it kind of takes a shape of its own, and eventually those concepts become internalized, which is the purpose of the text and the practice of the text. It becomes internalized, and we don't have to work so hard, and then we can add new things, and that's why there's a concept of beginner and advanced. The beginners have had a chance to internalize certain of what it's a good idea to start with. Suffering, the knowledge of suffering, the knowledge that everybody's suffering around me. Oh, all of a sudden we're all in the same boat. Now I'm not so different than everybody else. That judgment starts to go away. Doesn't matter how you're suffering, doesn't matter how I'm suffering, it's all suffering. It's all comes from a deluded mind. You know, this understanding really sort of, you know, shines a light on the world. So that's where it starts. And as we begin to internalize this stuff, you're right, Suka, it does become so much easier. And you're able to add new things, new practices.
You know, I'm seeing that depending on what our life experiences were, and I'm not going back to past lives, it really plays on which part of the Dharma pierces first. And I grew up in a medical family, and it was very clear to me, and then I worked in the medical field, that there was suffering everywhere. And even if it wasn't a physical ailment, those things caused other things. And of course, I experienced anxiety and all of that stuff. But probably the thing that helped me really, because I haven't, I come and I absorb and I have penetrated some things, but it's more of seeing the fact that everybody is the Buddha, you, me. If I choose to look at everybody, whether I like their behavior or not, as one with the Dharmakaya, and like you say, it's up to us to water the seeds and bring that forth. But for me to do it for me and to stop having judgment and only see their potential, and me treat them as if I believe it will come forward. And it helps. It's that in giving that we receive. If I do that, inevitably I receive it back. And you know, this Sangha is definitely a refuge for me.
Thank you.
I think the beauty for me has been able to see the building not just as a Sangha, everything is my Sangha. And the capacity for me to have expanded to meet everybody where they are, and then myself where I'm at. It goes back to the rock. We're all carrying this rock, but nobody knows what rock that is. We're pushing it up that mountain and it comes back down, but to free ourselves means to finally accept the fact that everyone has a rock and so do I, and what happens if the rock just
Mhm.
slides down the mountain? But the capacity for me to see everyone where they are, including myself, as both teacher and student equally.
Hmm.
And that's been a very impactful experience. And I, in a very different dimension, I'm also going through a huge transition in my life, and the ability to truly walk away from that. And multiple people have said to me, both professionally and personally, are you excited? Are you weeping? Are you this? I'm none of the above. And for me, that says something to me right there.
Mhm.
It just was seamless. It was like taking off a silk road and walking away from it,
Mhm.
and just leaving this beautiful incense behind and moving forward. And that for me, a massive gift.
It's wonderful. Mhm. It reminds me of two things. You mentioned really believing in the prayers and the well-wishing. I heard it said that the people that are the hardest to love need it most. When you pray for them, make sure that in their moment of choice, when they come to their moment of crisis and maybe a moment of surrender and choice, that the prayers that would enter during that moment of vulnerability would be prayers for their being one and being free and not suffering, versus their demise and all of that. Yeah. But hearing that make me realize, like you said, that our prayers, they go some they're out there. They're out there. It's not for nothing. That really helps me because we do a lot of prayers in our preliminary practices in the morning. And am I doing this for nothing? Am I doing this to train my own mind? Or is this really going somewhere? And I came to, a conclusion some time ago that it was going somewhere and it was worthwhile. And when we pick an object and we use the Dharma of cultivation with an object like a family member or a friend or an enemy, some way we consider an enemy, or considers us an enemy, right? Because I think we learn on the Buddhist path there's not really any enemies, right? It's not possible to have enemies ourselves. We can love our enemies, like Jesus said. We may have to get out of the way of our enemies. We may have to defend ourselves against our enemy, but we don't have to hate them, and we don't have to call them our enemy. Lost my train of thought.
Welcome.
Well, it's what? Oh, it's going somewhere. Yeah.
Prayers are useful. You found that prayers are useful.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's inspiring. And so to feel like, I'm contacting my father who passed away 20 years, 15 years ago, while I'm sitting and wishing him loving kindness and compassion and thanking him for, everything he did. It's really helpful. It's a connecting. It's a connecting thing. It's connecting. So all these things in Buddhism, all these practices, all these suggestions, all this is a suggestion. Buddhist master's not hanging anything over your head saying, or else. That happens in certain monasteries, we heard, but these suggestions are all to help us get unseparate. And when we pray and really believe that we're contacting and praying for someone and that it's benefiting them where they are, like we can actually imagine them turning and be, maybe even, saying, hey, thanks. That we're connecting to something outside of just this limited self-identity that we have. And what you shared, Dina, reminded me that, this idea that, we're part of this unified field, we're told, but to actually experience that as a state of experience is a ways off for me. But what you described And this idea that we get together with people when they're going through something and we're with them. We practice forbearance, we're bearing the suffering of others, is the first step towards sort of moving outside of ourselves and towards another, towards unity. So it all starts somewhere. Buddhism, awakening, starts with an understanding of suffering in the mind and how we're using it, how we populate it, and what's good and what's not, beneficial and not beneficial. But it leads to a complete state change where we're not in this, we're maybe in this world, but we're not of it anymore, literally. Now we could say that with pride, heard that a lot in church. Wow, we're in the world, but we're not of it. Yeah. But that's a real thing. It's funny how these spiritual phrases, they have a real meaning. We adopt them for our own sort of, ill-gotten gain sometimes. But there's a truth to so many of them. And as we walk the Buddhist path, we're getting in touch with truth. It doesn't matter if the source of that statement was Jesus or the Buddha or Buddha master or a Taoist master. Doesn't matter. The truth is the truth is the truth. That there's a truth that's known about, and it's been known by some about this existence we're a part of. And it's been said in many ways by many people in many traditions. So it's fun from having been on the Buddhist path for now 6 or 7 years. I overstate that. 5 or 6 years. To look into the Bible, to look into the Tao Te Ching, to look at these texts and see, oh, it makes perfect sense. I used to love to do that in my 20s too. It's got enough of the Indian philosophy that I was a part of at the time, Vedanta and Kashmir Shaivism and sort of, their notion of reality. But then I would look in the Bible and I would say, oh, you know what, they're saying something similar. Well, this idea of communion in the Catholic Mass was similar to what the Indians call prasad, where a master or a guru gives something that's got their energy. You take that in and you're blessed by it. So the trouble is we easily create delusion. Easily. It's our habit. It's what we're born into. So we take these truths and over centuries, unfortunately, we humanize them and we lessen their impact. But they're there for us to discover. I mean, I know the truth when I see it because I feel like I can read it every single day and it never lessens in its impact. And you'll see something new all the time. It could be just like one paragraph out of a writing or something like that.
I think that's one of the joys in rereading some of the suttas, is to be able to know it differently because you've had the experience versus seeking the experience that it's speaking of. Knowing that experience can bring a different level of appreciation and hopefully next level of cultivation for me too.
Yeah, because you're different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The field of the mind that they talk about is our reference point for how we see. We say we see through the lens of the Dharma. Well, we're using this reference point of this field. So as we're trying to populate it with these things, it's changing the way we see the world, it's changing the way we make decisions. When we come back to some of these things that got us started, we may see them in a new way because we've moved along.
That's the gift of the inculcation of mind.
Yeah.
Who's they?
What's that?
They.
They. What was I saying?
They tell us that the mind is a field.
Oh, the sages, Buddhas, teachers, venerable, Buddha master. Yeah, anybody Jesus.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So the Dharma is so vast. I think that maybe in past lifetimes I had access to Dharma. And so in one regard, it can be overwhelming. Like you can never learn enough, you know, in this lifetime of Dharma because it's just so vast. And so I think I'm at a point of having ease with that and being so grateful for the Dharma I've learned. And then the Sangha has been so, I think because of the practice, I don't know if somebody says like, how many years? It's like that's, I think at that 7-year point, it's like having enough of learning the Dharma, but just the generosity of this Sangha and our teacher. And the wherewithal to step into that generosity and being present with the Sangha the way I've been able to is like, it has really taken it from learning the Dharma and being in the Dharma with the Sangha, which has been so rich and which I'm so grateful for. It's not in a book.
Mm-mm.
It's not in a book. It's in this every moment that we're together.
Mhm.
That is so rich. I'm so grateful for. Like, who gets that? Really, like,
Right.
who gets that?
Outside of this room, yeah.
Yeah, and like, and then taking, like, every time the door opens, every time there's an offer, like, every time there's an offer, no matter what it is, stepping into that has been so vast,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
vast.
Yeah. So rather than grasping for something we call knowledge.
It's just like, it's like this expansiveness and this, it's stepping into generosity, which has been, so key. And I just, so grateful.
Mm.
So lovely.
I'm so grateful, Venerable. I'm so grateful, sisters, Sangha. Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the reasons I retired when I did, I had the opportunity, and I look back with such gratitude that all those years of putting away $25 a month in my first year teaching led to the point that I could do this. And my grandparents didn't always make the right choices, but they set me up to be in a place, and looking through all of that lens, and what Elsie is saying is the generosity of so many people that put this into place, that I could step away and step in.
Mm.
And that was you guys were a huge reason that I chose to do this when I did. And very few people know that, except for you guys and Dave, who knew that before I said it. You're gonna leave because Hanwadi's still here, and you're gonna take this moment to all of this.
Good for you. Good for you. Good that you had that opportunity.
And such gratitude, not just for this, but everything that transpired, and to see that through that lens of Dharma.
Mhm.
Nothing happened at a cause and condition, all the way back.
Thank you, Dina.
Thank you for your offering. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you. We had early Father's Day last week because Father's Day has become a baseball game, and the tourists were not playing this week. So then we had to go last weekend.
Have a game today.
Honey crisps?
Hendersonville Honey Crisps.
Oh, yeah.
Beyond the farm team.
Beyond farm team, yeah. That'd be interesting though. We don't have to go all the way to Asheville. Honey crisp, I remember that. Anyone else have anything they'd like to share before we close?
I just want to say thanks, Joe.
Me too, Joe.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much.
You're welcome. Thank you all.
Joe, let people know online we're gonna do a refuge ceremony.
Okay, and I think we're gonna move into a refuge ceremony at this point. The Venerable's gonna lead us. Um, so will we just go right into that?
So if anyone's online and they don't wanna see the refuge ceremony, because that's gonna take about 10 minutes or so, then you're really welcome to sign off. Joe didn't know that I was doing it, and I was wondering how it's gonna, morph, like switch off after his talk into, and give some basis for the refuge ceremony. But it was such a perfect talk, excellent talk, better than I could do, and so meaningful. So, I thank you so much, Joe, because you took some of the work off of me.
Thank you, Bill.
You're excellent. I'm a teacher. Chair behind. No, they're gonna come up here. Yes, we've always set them up, where all the go. Let's take it. Here. So we were sitting up in the community room a couple of days ago, and we were just having general conversation, and Alder is here for the next 2 months as part of the arts and widget program. We were all just talking, and something like just really arose in him, and it was just so beautiful. And he asked the question, like, how do I get a Dharma name? He asked the question, and I was talking to him about refuge. He said, well, how do I take refuge? And I said, what kind of Buddhist are you? Because he filled out an application before he came, and he said, I'm a book Buddhist. I read books. And he said, you need a teacher. And he said, but will you be my teacher? And the Buddha Master talks about there's 2 kinds and 2 times of taking refuge. One time is when there is that spark that arises in the heart when you hear something. This is my chance. This is my shot. This is my invitation to understanding life and surmounting the vicissitudes of life, finding out who and what I am, and understanding the nature of the universe. And, this, whatever this is something like I want to investigate and find out what it is. I don't know exactly what it is right now, but it is something. And usually that's the time that people take refuge. Of course, what are you taking refuge in? Taking refuge in I don't know what, And so it's not a real taking of refuge, although we have always said that it was, but it's more like enrolling. Like if you want to get a diploma and you enroll in school, I mean, if you don't do the registration, you're never gonna get the diploma. I mean, like you can come and sit in, you can audit, but you're never gonna walk away at the end with a diploma. So it's something like that. There are preliminaries, there are preliminary practices that we do to really begin to understand what it is that we are actually searching for, and what it is that we are really developing a that what we are developing into, or what we are uncovering or discovering about ourselves. The good news of the Dharma is that I already have the awakened mind. It's just covered up, by so many obscurations, and And all I'm doing is I'm undressing, I'm unpacking myself. So that which I'm seeking out here is actually nothing more than what I actually am. So I'm discovering myself. It's like a child when a child starts to learn things like that they can stand up and they stand up and they like bounce and they're so happy because they found out that these things down here they used for something. You know, these feet, these legs, and I no longer have to crawl. I can actually stand up, and later on, I can actually move around. And how wonderful that is! And so that's so excited, and that's what the Dharma does for us. And like you were mentioning, like you're never bored, and I tell you, I'm never bored. I'm never bored. Every day is so wonderful because every day I see something new. I see something, and every day I discover something new about me. So whatever thoughts I have about my insufficiencies, whatever thoughts I have about my past, what happened to me, what I did, what somebody did to me, all of those things begin to fall away and lose ground. And I'm just left with a sense of this extraordinary brightness that we all possess. And most of us spend our lives never walking it out, never expressing it, never tasting the sweetness of it. And so this is a path that allows us to do this step by step. So we start with taking refuge. What does it mean to take refuge? It means at first it requires a surrender. One time somebody came to the Buddha and they were being all smart, you know, and he said, well, first I want to tell you, I'm the one who knows. You do not know. Now, I'm not speaking of Panyawadi. I'm telling you what the Buddha said. He said, I'm the one who knows. You do not know. And so he was checking that kind of cleverness that you talked about, that facade that we put up in front of other people. And he was letting him know the kind of heart he has to have in order to grow, in order to uncover himself, that we need help, you know, and being willing to step into that bringing down of that insecure ego that tries to be so clever, that tries to protect us, because there's no protection at all. One day someone came in here and they were really trying to be smart, and I just asked them a question. Do you actually think that Buddhist practitioners who really cultivate can see through you? Can't see through this? I mean, do you really think that? I mean, if so, this would be no use Dharma. You know, and so there's something that comes with it. It's our own wisdom that's being uncovered. And so we no longer have to do the things we used to do to try unsuccessfully to protect ourselves. So that's the first freedom that we have. We're no longer trying to protect ourselves, you know. We know that the Dharma actually becomes our protection. The Buddha, we come to begin to accept. It's hard, you know, with all my mess ups, it's hard to accept the fact that awakening, I am that. So when I was in Vedanta, you know, we had our stages of realization. And the highest stage was I am that. Satnam, you know, Jok Niranjan Onkar Varankar Soham Satnam. I am that. So in the beginning, I thought I needed a savior. I needed a refuge. But as I began to develop and uncover myself, the highest level was I am that which I seek. Now these are words, and you could just say the words and they don't have any. But when you're walking it out and you're beginning to experience it in those peculiar ways that you know that is true, that's what brings the joy. That there's nothing this life can bring, can come that will overtake me. It's utterly impossible. And I get to choose. So I choose my level of suffering. I choose and walking this out and having little successes that might be unnoticeable to others, insignificant to others, maybe even insignificant to myself, but they start piling up. It's just like when you drop that one pea that just shifts the scales and everything falls. You never know which pea is going to be the last pea that's needed to shift things for you. And so we have an optimism in life. We believe in virtue and goodness. When virtue is lost, then you have morality. Now you got right and wrong and do and don't do. But there is a place above that one can just function naturally and know what is the right action in every moment. What is the useful, beneficial way to meet the moment? And that's what we're endeavoring for. And I mean, to know that it starts with something. It starts with understanding certain principles, then testing them out to see if they actually work. And if something doesn't work, why didn't it work? Was there a fault in that? Or was there something that I did do or didn't do that brought about an outcome? So we started learning about cause and effect and all of these things. But after a while, these external constructs, as Joe said, they begin to become internalized. And then this just becomes, as Suka said, we become that. What you think and ponder on becomes the way you lean, becomes the inclination of your mind. When somebody does something to me, my first impulse now is I'm gonna kill them. But then in the future, my first impulse might become, because I've been studying the principles and understanding how they can benefit me. First of all, I started to discover that my first thought is not, I'm gonna kill you. My first thought is, you must really be suffering to act like that. To even have that thought in your mind of doing such and such to someone, you must really be suffering, really be hurt. So how can I meet you at this moment of your pain? How can I talk you down? The big man that came after Bill, that was a big man. I mean, he was a big man. He wasn't just 6-something tall. He was big too, and I'm looking. There was a split second that me and Busita had to take some action. He got the trunk of a branch of a tree, and because the guy's coming after him, he's 4 times the size of Bill. Bill's got to protect himself. She ran to Bill, I ran to the big man, threw my arms up. You can't do this. Without any sense of fear in the moment, only having a kind of understanding and embrace of the power of goodness. And that was it. And goodness had its perfect work. And goodness protected all of us.
What did he do? Did he throw you down? You threw your arms around?
I couldn't go all the way around because he was too big, but as much as I could, I said, you can't stop it.
He put his arm around her and was pacified immediately.
Oh, wow.
It didn't last forever, but it
Yeah,
resolved it.
but it stopped that moment long enough for at least the police to get here, and then it was over. Because they were here. But I'm just telling you that you have to understand the principles for you to be the principle in the moment when something is required. So the Buddha talked about the 5 faultless gifts. And he said, there are these 5 gifts, 5 great gifts, original, long-standing, traditional, ancient. They're unadulterated from the very beginning, that are not open to suspicion, will never be open to suspicion, and are unfaulted by they. Unfaulted by they. Who is they? Knowledgeable contemplatives and holy men. Which 5? There's a case where a disciple of the noble ones abandons the taking of life. He abstains from taking life, from taking what is not given. He refrains from sexual misconduct and refrains from incorrect speech and avoids intoxicants that lead to carelessness of behavior. In doing so, he gives freedom from danger. He gives freedom from animosity. He gives freedom from oppression to limitless numbers of beings. And in giving freedom from danger, freedom from animosity, freedom from oppression to limitless numbers of beings, he gains a share in that limitless freedom from danger and freedom from animosity and freedom from oppression. So he called, and then he went on to talk about what those 5 gifts were. And we know them as the 5 precepts. So when we think of precepts, we think of rules. I got rules now. You know, I got I don't want rules. I'm free. I'm grown. I'm an adult. And but the Buddha spoke of these not as rules, but as gifts. The 5 gifts. And so today, Alder asked, could he take the 5 precepts to officially begin, his journey where he actually takes refuge in the Buddha mind. When my ordinary mind wants to do this, what does the Buddha mind say do? So they're undertaking a training. And he says, I take refuge in the Dharma. Those are the principles that guide that process. And to take refuge in the Sangha. Then there's 2 kinds of Sangha. Sangha is everybody who gathers together. That's one kind of Sangha. And then there's a second kind of Sangha, and that's the noble Sangha. Now we say the noble Sangha are the monastics, ones who dedicated their life. They've given up making money and having a career and all the things that we do here in life, and having loves and having babies and and we make that our focus in life to be able to have precious gifts to give, to humanity. And so there is honor that should be shown and given to monastics. But then he talks about the monastics. He says, not just one who wears a robe, but one who brings alive the concepts so that you can see it in a living way. So robe does not a monastic make, but it's one who actually walks out the principles in a way that they actually become a path for you. And he said, those one should go to, seek out, and take refuge in. So it starts with the 5 precepts, the 5 lay precepts. And we say they're lay precepts. There are other requirements to actually being a lay practitioner. And basically it is taking up cultivation, right? And that means that you're putting into practice the things, not walking away a forgetful hearer, but you're actually trying to put it in practice. You know, when you do something that you didn't do your best in a situation, your greed got to you, your anger got to you, your pride got to you, your arrogance got to you, your cleverness got to you, your fears got to you, you know, and you didn't do your best, and you go back and you reflect on it, and we should reflect, you know, then we can say, yeah, I could have done better than that. Or I just didn't know what to do in the moment. Or, you know, but you are reflecting on it. And of course, hindsight, you know, produces foresight, and that becomes insight. Yeah. And so that's one part of it. But the other part of this is that we move closer and closer to the present moment when something is arising. So that means that right when I have that retort on my lips, don't say it. Remember, you made a vow, you took a precept. And you can recall that precept that you took. Yeah. And in that moment when fear is about to overcome you and you're just about to lose your wit, you stop. And you remember that I have the Buddha nature. And right then, you calm yourself. You calm yourself. That big man needed me to calm him. How wonderful when you can calm yourself. When your mind is telling you something that even you know is not true, you know, but you like just going with it for them and in the moment, you know. But you even know that if you weren't upset about it, that you know that that's not true. So you wigging, and you even know that it's not a real thing, you know. You would stop right at that moment and gather yourself around together, you know. And then this way we learn how to handle, how to solve our own problems. You know? And with that comes such a great sense of being able to be at peace in the world and to not be afraid of any man, woman, you know what I'm saying? Not to be afraid of anyone. And then after a while, as if you advance, then and your vision starts expanding, you start passing through barriers, moving to dimensions, you find there's more than just man. You know, that there are other beings in other spheres that's all right here, living in other dimensions. You ain't got to go far into outer space because they're right here. You know, and you find that some of them are not developed in practice. So they don't have good intentions. You know, and they are attracted to you because you don't have good intentions. The best way to get rid of devils in your life is for you to have good intentions. They can't stand the smell of you then. They'll leave you. You know, you ain't got to cast nothing out. All you have to do is not be like them. And so this is how we steadily, step by step, grow on this path. So today I'm giving the 5 precepts to Alder, and Piedita is renewing her vows. Now I made a note. So her name means loved, seen, and understood. So I was reflecting as to whether I would change her name. But I decided that I'm gonna leave it in place for now, because I don't think that you fully enter into the freedom of being loved, being seen, and being understood. I will know when you do. You know? But that's like a salve. Your name is like a salve, you know, that will continue to comfort you. I like that you asked, could you renew your vows? You originally took your precepts on May 12th in 2019. On May 23rd of 2021, you renewed your vows. And today, again, then you completed the Theravada Dharmacharya program, in June of 2022. And today you are renewing your vows. And so there's something about renewing vows. You know how when a couple have been married a long time and they decide like he's still a keeper after 20 years, you know, and then they decide to do a vow renewal. It's something that they do publicly to reaffirm their commitment, and it's good to renew your vows, especially if you transgress them a, a lot, like I'm constantly taking refuge. That's why every day, I'm going for refuge. Buddham Saranam Gacchami, Dhammam Saranam Gacchami, Sangam Saranam Gacchami. Every day I'm renewing, you know, my taking of refuge, because every day I've transgressed something. Even if I can't think of what it is exactly, it'll come to me a week later, a month later, 5 years later. Don't you think about things that lately a lot of things have been coming to me that I never thought about at all. And I'm like, dang. Because I'm not in the same place that I was then. So I have a vision that goes a little bit deeper, extends a little bit further. And I can see now that action that I did, that thing that I thought I wouldn't be able to do that now with a good conscience. So we can see how we gradually grow over a long period of time. So to refresh, to renew our vows is like to wipe the slate clean and to start all over again, to have more resolve and more gratitude, and more deep living and more commitment and more trust. And so it's wonderful, and it's my pleasure to renew your vows today. And so we're going to recite the 5 precepts, and we will do them in Pali first. And someone's right behind you to help you if you get stumped. Are we ready? Then why don't we open Buddham Saranam Gacchami.
Buddham Gacchami,
Dhammam Saranam Gacchami,
Dhammam Saranam Gacchami,
Sangam Saranam Gacchami. Slide closer, because I hear all kinds of stuff. Sangam Saranam Gacchami,
Sangam Saranam Gacchami,
Dutiyampi.
Dutiyampi.
That means for the second time. Buddham Saranam Gacchami,
Buddham Saranam Gacchami,
Dhammam Saranam Gacchami,
Dhammam Saranam Gacchami,
Sangam Saranam Gacchami,
Sangam Saranam Gacchami,
Tatiyampi. That
Tatyampi,
means for the third time. Buddham Saranam Gacchami,
Buddham Saranam Gacchami,
Dhammam Saranam Gacchami,
Dhammam Saranam Gacchami,
Sangam Saranam Gacchami.
Sangam Saranam Gacchami.
So now you can just bow and make your offering. Panati Pata Viramani
Panati Paranama, Viranami,
Sikapadam Samadhyami.
Sikapadam Samadhisami.
And to take the precept to refrain from destroying living creatures.
I undertake the precept to refrain from destroying living creatures.
Adina Dana Viramani,
Adina Dhamma Veramani,
Sikabadam Samadhyami.
Sikapadam Samadhyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from taking what is not given.
I undertake the precept to refrain from taking that which is not given.
Kamisu Michachara,
Kamisu Michachara,
Viramani Sikabadam Samadhyami.
Viramani Sikapadam Samadhyami.
Undertake the precept to refrain from sexual misconduct.
I undertake the precept to refrain from sexual misconduct.
For you, that would also be sensual misconduct. That means putting a check on what you see, on what you hear, taste, and touch, and smell, and think that's the second level of that. Musavada Viramani,
Musavada Veramani,
Sikapadam Samadhyami.
Sikapadam Samadhyami.
Undertake the precept to refrain from incorrect speech.
I undertake the precept to refrain from incorrect speech.
And this includes not just speech that is harmful in an overt way, but it's also things that we say that are disempowering to ourselves, disempowering to others. Surah Meraya Majapamadatan.
Surah Mira Paramatam.
Surah Meraya Maja.
Surah Miraja.
Surah Mariah, Surah Mariah Maja,
Surah Maya Maja.
Pamadatan,
Pamadatan.
Viramani,
Veramani.
Sikabadam Samadhyami.
Sikapadam Samadhyami.
Undertake the precept to refrain from intoxicating drinks and drugs which lead to carelessness.
I undertake the precept to refrain from intoxicating drinks and drugs which lead to carelessness.
So we start with just those five. And we work with those five for a while. Then we can add more. Then it gets to be hundreds if you want to take them. But I love what Ajahn Chah said. Somebody came in and said, do you keep, these hundreds of precepts? He said, I keep one precept. He said, you only keep one precept? He said, yes, I keep one precept. He said, what precept is that? He said, I keep rule over my mind. And so I was so glad to hear him say it, because I feel the same way. May my conduct be the condition
May my conduct be the condition
for attainment of the highest fruits
for the attainment of the highest fruits
of liberation.
of liberation.
If you would get no. You know, I was too big. No. Alden, how do you pronounce your last name?
Everett.
Everett, Alder Everett, having entered the Sangha by having properly joined the triple gem, taking refuge in the Buddha and the Dharma and the Sangha, and by having undertaken the 5 precepts for life, has been given the Dharma name Amala Shuk. Amala Shuk means pure, unblemished one without sorrow. In detail, love is seen and understood. And I gave you your original date was in 2019. This is a renewal of vows, as of today, June 15, 2025. And yeah, your deeds.
Welcome.
So we still finished on time. Somebody offer. I'm closing. Dedication is married.
May today's Dharma and refuge ceremony truly be for the benefit of all beings, from the ones in our bodies to the ones to the farthest corners of the universe. May no harm come to them, and may they come to encounter the true Buddha Dharma in this lifetime and attain Nibbana immediately.